That's why Carolina's in Chapel Hill and USC's in California. And the university in this state always has been, always will be, Clemson. Print that, tweet that.
And I hope they come in undefeated. That's what I told you before the game. Our team believes. Our team believes. They got heart. We got greatness in us. They say we can't do it. What they say now?
Down go the champs. Auburn's 17-game win streak comes to an end.
We got greatness in us. So I told them, you got greatness in you, but you got to make a decision to be great. They made a decision to be great today. And I couldn't think of a better place to end the streak than Death Valley, South Carolina, baby.
And now it's time for TigerNet Talk, presented by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty.
They got the coaches back.
Oh yeah, welcome into another edition of TigerNet Talk. I'm your host, Lawton Swann. Glad to have you with us, and I know some of you are trying to call in the program right now, but hold off on those phone calls if you can for just a few minutes. I'm sure you want to talk to CJ Spiller, but we've got him on that phone line right now. It's probably going to kick you to voicemail. If you do want to talk to CJ, though, if you have some time, stick around. We'll try and get that worked out for you, but I'd prefer if you get the opportunity to leave us some messages in the chat room live here on the front page of TigerNet.com and on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. And without any further ado, we welcome in to the program former Clemson Tiger, Buffalo Bill running back, CJ Spiller. CJ, welcome into the show, and congratulations on a fantastic season this year. I know you made Tiger Nation proud.
Thank y'all guys for having me tonight. And, I'm always trying to make Tiger Nation proud. Every time I step on that field on Sundays, I spent 4 great years there. And, they became family to me, just like I became family to them. So I'm always be a Tiger. I'm a Tiger for life. I was a Tiger in high school. I was a Tiger in college. But now I'm a Bill. But, I'm always be a Tiger for life in my heart.
207 carries for 1,244 yards this year. That was an average of 6 yards a carry. You were unbelievable. Maybe a surprise to some people across the league, to many people maybe in fantasy football, an early season pickup after your monster week in week 1. But I tell you what, for Clemson fans, one thing was familiar seeing you in that 28 jersey again. I know 21 was a little bit different for him for a few years, but that 28 jersey running up and down the field for Buffalo didn't surprise anybody who followed you at Clemson.
Oh, yeah, 28, that's my number. When I had to wear my rookie year, I was kind of down. To me, it just didn't fit me. I just think I just grew so much attached to 28 that, I just kind of felt out of place. But, it wasn't an excuse for the year that I had. I went through some growing pains that every rookie goes through, and I was able to learn a lot through those difficult times. And it kind of helped me become better the following year and also this past year.
Now, during your National Signing Day speech, CJ, I know that was an electric moment for Clemson people, and with Signing Day just being passed, you said one thing. You said, academics are more important than my football career, and education will always help me in life. And in December of 2009, you became the first person in your family to receive a 4-year degree from college. You've also since had your number 28 retired at Clemson, both of those being tremendous milestones. Which one of those, though, do you carry a little bit harder or a little bit heavier, I guess, in your heart?
Well, academics. That's what I went to. That's what I set my mind off when I signed that letter of intent on 7 years ago. That's the thing that I said in my press conference. For the next 3 or 4 years, I was spending my time at Clemson University, and that's what I did, and that's what I set my mind out to do. And I'm glad I was able to walk away with a degree. That's the most important thing. That's why you go to college. Of course, yeah, you love to do what you do, and that's play football. But the most important thing is getting the education. I have yet to understand how guys can go to college for between 3 to 5 years and don't have no education or a degree to show for it. I didn't want to be one of those stats, and that's something that my grandmother really stressed on me, and that's something that I promised to her before she passed away, that I was going to graduate first from high school and then also go on and graduate from college.
Well, don't tell my dad I was supposed to get a degree in 5 years. It took me a little longer. Trust me, Clemson Nation would have rather you had my 7-year career at college than your 4-year career, as good as it was. I know people would still like to see you back there playing for the Tigers. Obviously, the recruiting scenarios you went through being a 5-star athlete out of the state of Florida were tremendous. But was there a moment maybe when you were younger that you remember seeing Clemson on TV? Is there a first time that they stood out to you and you said, hey, you know what, that looks like a program maybe down the road, if I'm good enough, I'd like to play at?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is, I grew up a huge Florida State fan. Everybody know that. Everybody know I wear 28 because of Ward Dunn. So I followed Florida State my whole, childhood all the way up into, high school. And so I always seen them play Clemson. I remember the year, I want to say I was sitting in the stands the year that Justin Miller seemed like he just kept running kickoff returns back and punt returns back. I think he set the all-time record that day. So, I was very familiar with them and knew what they was all about because, I knew how they fans travel, because the stadium was packed. So, I always kind of planted that seed that one day, I could possibility be a Clemson Tiger. And, behold, a couple of years later, I ended up committing there.
Well, you talked about Justin Miller. Those 2 kickoff returns, that's happened, I believe, 16 times in the history of college football with a guy having 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns in a game. Now, coincidentally, you still sit atop the list with, I believe it's 7 career kickoff returns for touchdowns. The odd thing about it, though, you also, people might not realize this, sit on top of the list of most kick returns. If you include the 1 punt return you had, you have a total of 8. The odd thing about that, CJ, you're the only person to ever do it with more kickoff returns than punt returns, and you did it 7-1.
Well, that's an honor, but, all the credit goes to those other 10 guys that was back there blocking, including Jacoby Ford, my old partner while I was at Clemson, still my partner today. So those guys did the hard part. All I had to do is just read it and do what I do best, use my speed. So those guys kind of made it easy. So, yeah, of course it shows my name sitting up there alone, but in my heart, all 11 guys are sitting up there on top of that list with me.
A class act as always. CJ Spiller joins us here on TigerNet Talk presented by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty. And CJ, we've got a couple of questions coming in already. The original Brady sent us an email and says that he's a student at Clemson right now and walking around campus being the most popular man in town. What was that like for you? Did you get recognized a lot? And he wants to tell you thanks for everything you've done for the program. He's been a Tiger fan since birth and always loved seeing you play.
Oh, well, I thank him on that. And, it was, everybody, they knew me before I even got to Clemson, because, coming out of high school, having all the accolades that, that I had. So everybody kind of knew, so they went and watched the YouTube. But, to me, I always had a great circle of people, I guess you can say, that kept me focused and kept me humble. Because one thing that I do know is that, the pride will always fall, but the humble will always be exalted. So I always just stay humble and, try to just mingle with fans and take pictures with fans, sign autographs, and, just do that. Just try to do something that, part of the other athletes wouldn't do. So, it was definitely different, because it was kind of hectic at times to try to go out and eat. And, you always kind of want some of your privacy, but I knew it came with the territory, so I just, didn't mind it at all.
Now, obviously, when Clemson was courting you, Dabo Swinney was on that coaching staff. Now, of course, the head coach, and while you were there, a coaching change. What were your first thoughts the minutes you heard that Tommy Bowden had resigned?
Well, I was heartbroken. Because it was more than just, losing the coach. It was losing like a father figure. Things that Coach Bowden taught, the things that we talked about, during my recruiting process, the things that we had connections with, and that's, both our, spiritual life. So it was definitely hard to see him to go. It definitely took it hard, but to see Coach Swinney get promoted, it was a blessing because that was the guy that recruited me there. So I kind of knew, what he was all about. So I was glad to see him, for the administration to stay in house and, promote a guy that can take that program to higher level.
Well, that question comes to us from one of our loyal listeners, Chris Carey. So I appreciate Chris chiming in with that one. And, of course, you mentioned Dabo Swinney moving in, CJ, and taking over this program. When you go back to National Signing Day and the night before, everything that you had gone through with Dabo Swinney, the sign in the back of the card to say that you would take a visit, what was it like the night before National Signing Day? You're laying in bed. You're still wanting to surprise your mom, I'm assuming, at that point. But did you ever think for a minute maybe I should look somewhere else?
I mean, it was very tough. It was very tough, just because nobody knew. Only people that really knew was that knew definitely was Coach Sweeney and Coach Bowles. They were the only two people. You know, the other coaches, they kind of probably thought I was coming, but wasn't really sure. But those two guys, I gave them my commitment before they left my house when he came. I told them I was coming right outside in our driveway. So nobody else knew. So the hard part with me was just, you know, how am I going to be able to explain this to my mom and, you know, let her know what I'm going to do? Because, you know, everybody knows, you know, she was very close to Urban Meyer, and being 20 minutes from the University of Florida, she wanted me to stay home. So there was a lot of thoughts going on. So it was very little sleep that I got. But, you know, I was able to manage some of it, and, you know, the rest is history.
Now, you signed that letter of intent, and I'm sure you thought that your impact would be on the field at Clemson, and certainly it was. But looking at how recruiting has gone lately, how frequently these five-star kids continue to recognize what you were able to do at Clemson, clearly your impact is lasting much longer than your 4-year career. What does that mean to you?
I think, you know, the thing I heard Ray Lewis said best, you know, is you going to leave a legacy or you going to leave an impact? And, you know, when you can separate those two, that's when you have a great player. And that's kind of what my mindset coming in. You know, first you want to leave a legacy, but I'll be more important to the impact that I have on other people's lives, you know, because that's what it's all about. How can you impact someone's lives and make their life better? So, you know, to me it's still astonishing to even come back to Clemson and just see the smiles and the people that still welcome me just like their son, just like it was 7 years ago when I first got there. You know, so it's a blessing to see, you know, how many lives that I was able to touch, you know, through my play and through my character and the way I handled myself.
Well, in the chat room, CJ, they're talking about that moment on National Signing Day. Let's hear it right here.
And now, whatever I'm doing, you know, in the fall of 2006, I enrolled at Clemson University.
So there it was, C.J. Spiller announcing in the fall of 2006 he will be enrolling at Clemson University. Obviously, you still keep your eye on this program, and I know how explosive you were in the offense. How much would you have liked to play in a system like what Chad Morris is currently running at Clemson?
Well, of course I would have wanted to play in it. I mean, you never know. You know, I probably would have wanted to do a little more. Me and Coach Morris probably would have bumped the heads a little bit because I probably would have wanted to do a little more, you know, quarterback up under center instead of running sideways all the time. But, you know, it's very explosive, you know, to see the things that they've been able to do. Just can only imagine what could have happened with, you know, with me and Jacoby. But, you know, I look on the past. You know, I had a great career there with the offenses that I ran. And, you know, and I'm glad to see that these guys are doing great with what they're going with.
No doubt about it. C.J. Spiller here with us on TigerNet Talk, presented by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty. And, C.J., if you hold on with us through the break, we want to run you through the gauntlet of the Clemson 10 here on the program. So stick around, Tiger fans. C.J. will be with us, and we'll put him through his paces on the Clemson 10. Just like every great Tiger who walks in to TigerNet Talk, they got to walk the plank a little bit and answer some questions. Stay with us.
Can't you tell that we ballin'? And these boys can't hold us back. 81 championship, and best believe we going back. Clemson, we all in. One team with one dream.
We're on the quest for the best, and we can't let anything hold us back.
These boys can't hold us back. These boys can't hold us back.
Missed that old familiar ping of college baseball? Well, guess what? You don't have to miss a single game of Clemson Tiger baseball, as you can stay at the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium, the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. Rooms are available for baseball season with lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast, bar, Seasons Restaurant by the lake, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course. All are waiting for you right around the corner from the stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call toll-free 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. It's the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. Go to www.clemsonuniversityin.com. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove. A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about services offered by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC, visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate or reach them by phone 864-517-3620 or 864-517-3621. Clemson Sports Talk fans, let us help you. With rates starting as low as $100 a month, you can advertise with us through July 2013. We are currently seeking additional advertisers and would love to help you spread the word about your business. Email us clemson81@gmail.com for additional information. Sponsors will receive an ad during the show and a link and logo in the weekly show notes on TigerNet and on the front page of ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Take your business to the Clemson fans around the world with us, ClemsonSportsTalk.com.
2009, I'll be here at Clemson University.
Quite the uproar there for C.J. Spiller as he announces that he's going to come back to Clemson for the 2009 season. He leads the Clemson Tigers to the Atlantic Coast Conference championship game. They come up just a little bit short in a game that would eventually be forfeited by the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. C.J., I asked you about sitting there the night before National Signing Day. You look at that Atlantic Coast Conference championship game, all the things that you did throughout your career. Are there things in your mind that you look at and you say, man, we just missed out on that great moment?
Well, of course, it was the ACC championship game. That was really, besides me wanting to graduate, that was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to help my guys just taste that victory and have a chance to represent the ACC in the Orange Bowl. And we just fell up short. We had a great season. We had a great ride at it. We went through a lot of ups and downs that year. But, if it was one thing, it would be that, to say that that my class was ACC champion. But, we didn't get it done. But I think we kind of left a foundation for that program to be able to go and win multiple championships.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think the job that you guys did really paved the way, and now you're seeing at least Clemson is seeing the fruits of that labor. At Frank the Tank 7 on Twitter, and I should say that it's got an underscore in between the and Tank for Frank so people can follow him. He wants to know, how are the Bills fans similar or different from Clemson fans, and what was the hardest part about your transition to the NFL?
Well, Frank, the main thing is, to me, I think their fans are very similar to Clemson. They're very passionate about the Bills because one thing, the only two teams up there is the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres. So that's the only two major sports. So they only have two teams to root for. So the fans are very passionate. They're going to cheer. They're going to let you know when you're doing great, and then also they're going to let you know when you're not. And that's the thing that you love as an athlete. So I say they're very similar. Our stadium doesn't hold 80-something thousand like Death Valley does, but when those guys are rocking, it's very loud in the route. So, I'm definitely looking forward to giving them something to be excited about the upcoming season.
Before we get to the Clemson 10, I've got a couple of people in the chat room that want to ask you something. Josh says, CJ, you mentioned the importance of education. If you weren't playing football, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't playing football, Josh, the main thing I'd be doing is coaching. I love being around kids. To me, I love seeing other individuals succeed in life, and that's the thing that I do. Every year I go back to my high school and I work. That's where I start working out at before I go off to California, because I want to let those guys see me work and also get an opportunity to work out with me. So, that's my plan. That's my life. I just gave you my life after football. Or what I'm going to be doing is coaching, just because I love to see young men succeed in life, and especially in my hometown because, you know, I come from a small country town and there's nothing really to look forward to. So I kind of want to be that example to let them know that there's more out there than just sitting in old Lake Butler, Union County.
Tiger Clay says, CJ, you're his favorite Tiger of all time, and he hopes you come back one day and coach after your NFL career, but more importantly, he wants to congratulate you on that deserved pay raise with the Buffalo Bills. Would you ever want to get into coaching at the collegiate level?
But it's something that, you know, that I wrote down as, you know, as I jotting down some afterlife, you know, football, even though, you know, I still got 9 or 10 years left. But, you know, it would be an honor to coach at my alma mater. You know, who knows what lies ahead in the road, but it would be a tremendous honor to coach at a place that's very dear to my heart.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, CJ Spiller here on TigerNet Talk, presented by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, steps into the box to take a swing at the Clemson 10 like the rest of the greats who have come on the program. First off, CJ, question one, what does Clemson mean to you?
Clemson means everything to me because, one, they gave me an opportunity to fulfill my dreams, and that's play football and let me get an education. Not saying other schools didn't, but, you know, they didn't have to do that. You know, Coach Swann didn't have to plant that bug in my ear to try to just take a visit to Clemson. You know, he didn't have to do it, and I'm glad that he did because, you know, I would have missed out to going to a tremendous university. I think the best university in college football in the land today.
Describe the first time you ran down the hill on game day.
Oh, had chills. You know, I still get chills to today when I see the guys run down the hill because you see all the fans that came, you know, from everywhere. You see all the RVs, you know, that get there the night before. So, you know, I had chills running down, but my biggest thing was I was making sure that I wasn't going to fall. So that's why I was always the last one to come down the hill. From my freshman year all the way to my senior year, I was always the last one to come down that hill.
I think most people know this answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who's been the biggest influence on your life?
The biggest influence, well, I have two people. It's my mother and my grandmother. You know, those are two people. Well, I say my grandparents. You know, those people are the ones that kind of gave me my core values that I need as a man to grow up as a young boy so I can become a man. So I say those three, you know, was really their influence on my life.
What's your favorite spot on campus? If you could snap your fingers right now, you're back in Clemson. Where are you sitting?
Cedarwood. That's my old complex where I stayed at. You know, from my sophomore year to my senior year. Cedarwood. That's as me and Coach Swann call it. That's the cut. That's what we call it because it's back in the cut. You know, it's hard to find it, but that was my spot.
Now, you had a lot of great moments. What's the greatest moment in your mind during your time at Clemson?
The greatest moment in my mind at Clemson, on the field, it was when we clinched the division, when we beat Virginia, to how the fans chant your name. It don't really sit with you while you're playing, but, you know, now since I've been away for about, you know, 3 years, when I look back and just hear that, I mean, it kind of, you know, I don't want to sound, you know, like I'm, you know, weak or anything, but it kind of just brings tears, you know, to your eyes because it goes to show what I was talking about earlier, the impact and the legacy that you left on the place that you enjoyed playing at. So to hear my name chanted, you know, walking off that field, knowing that was going to be my last game ever, you know, putting on the uniform, that was my greatest moment. 5
down, 5 to go here on the Clemson 10 with CJ Spiller. Your toughest moment during your time at Clemson?
My toughest moment, my time at Clemson? It was probably that ACC championship night. That was probably my toughest. That was my toughest.
One for me.
We had some up and down season, but that night was just that was tough for me.
One for me in your career that stands out was watching the game. I believe it was at Wake Forest, and you had a thigh injury, I think it was at the time, and were unable to play. And seeing you, you know, wanting to be out there and not being able to help the team, that was one, you know, from me, from the outside looking in at your career, I just thought how tough that must have been for you to stand there. What do you remember about that?
I remember to this day. It was, like you said, it was against Wake Forest, and I had a hamstring injury. I want to say it was a Thursday night game up there. And, you know, as a competitor, you want to be out there to help your team. And then I want to say the following week, I think Coach Bowden get the news that he's gone. So all that, you know, guilt and stuff that I had to deal with, you know, that nobody really knew about that was going on inside me, because, you know, I felt like if I was out there, we would have won that game, or we would have had a better chance of winning. And, you know, it was kind of, you know, I kind of put a lot of blame on me for him, you know, having to leave that university. But, you know, I was able to talk to a lot of people to get over that hump. So, you know, it was very tough for me to see my teams. And then, you know, to miss that game the following week, Coach Sweeney's first game as a head coach against Georgia Tech, you know, wanting to be out there with the guys that couldn't. So, I mean, those were some tough times as well. I mean, I've had my ups and downs there.
Your most difficult class during your time at Clemson?
My most difficult class at Clemson? I would probably say death and aging, because you do not want to sit in the class where you learning about you're going to age, which we all going to do that regardless, but also dying. You know, the process of what they do to your body when you're gone. You know, that was one of the boring classes ever. But it was interesting, but it was boring at the same time.
The best stadium to play in on the road?
The best stadium playing on the road? Tallahassee. By far the best stadium to me to play in.
One thing most Clemson fans still don't know about C.J. Spiller.
One thing that Clemson fans still don't know about C.J. Spiller? Man, I think they pretty much know everything. They know I had a toe injury. I'm pretty sure that they probably don't know that I missed my senior year. I probably missed the most practices ever, and wasn't in no way in shape that whole year, you know, dealing with that injury, because I wasn't able to practice until pretty much almost Thursday, which is almost like a walk-through practice. So,
right.
I mean, that would probably be the only thing that they really didn't know, the behind scenes of, you know, what was going on with the toe injury.
And finally, C.J., the last one, in 10 years, what do you hope Clemson fans will remember about C.J. Spiller?
In 10 years? Well, to me, I hope they remember more than just the football player. I want them to remember the person, the player, how he treated folks. You know, the kindness that I tried to show to everyone. You know, to me, that'll be more. You know, I think it's the cliche that everybody says. You know, when you pass away, I hope your fans don't just remember you as a football player. You know, I want them to remember C.J. Spiller as the person.
Well, CJ, I can tell you this, man. It's been fantastic having you on and seeing you on the NFL Network after that Miami game when you were chatting it up with those guys. Afterwards, I tell you what, it made Tiger Nation proud. And I can tell you, unlike a lot of sports talk hosts that you may talk to, I'm a Clemson graduate. So I bleed Clemson orange just like you do. And I want to tell you that the pride I feel, I know matches the pride that Clemson Tiger fans feel for you everywhere. We're proud of you, and we look forward to seeing the rest of your NFL career as you continue to blossom.
I thank y'all guys for having me. It was awesome. Clemson Nation, know that I always love you guys. I'll always be back in the Valley. Every time I have a bye week, and if they have a home game, I'll always be there to support my guys. Even on the road, even when I'm not there, I'm always watching. I'm always going to bleed that orange and purple.
All right. All right, CJ. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
All right, thank you.
C.J. Spiller, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greats. Unbelievable here on TigerNet Talk, presented by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, on the front page of TigerNet.com and ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Again, another Clemson guy, former player, comes in and smashes it. Home run style by the football great. That's how they do it. You got to love it. Stay with us for more here on TigerNet Talk.
Sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981.
Do you suffer from a chronic case of the woohoo during football games? Do your Saturdays sound something a bit like this? Well, TigerNet Talk is out to fix that. we can band together, we can change this reoccurring issue. With a simple, go Tigers, go, you can make a difference. Ban the woohoo. Do yourself a favor. And as always, go Tigers. A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional, licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about the forestry and real estate services offered by Cross Creek Timber, call 864-517-3620 and Cross Creek Realty, LLC at 864-517-3621. Or visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
There's something about looking and feeling classy that everyone enjoys. Check out Edisto Outdoors, an apparel brand inspired by our southern animals and environment. These shirts feature soft-touch prints that will keep you looking your best in all types of weather. Look for Edisto Outdoors, coming soon to many fine retailers across the state, or visit www.edistooutdoors.com. Technical, comfortable, livable.
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
We turned up, we run down the hill, we so turned up. Run the rock, hit the field, no competition, we first up. Offense is too fast, defense ain't scared, boy. Line up against me, we drop you on your head, boy.
Welcome back in to TigerNet Talk, presented by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, and thank you to all our sponsors. We really do appreciate them, and if you want to sponsor the show or be a part of the show, feel free to contact us, Clemson81@gmail.com. Rates starting at just $100 a month. CJ Spiller there before the break, and my goodness, I know the people in the chat room are talking about right now just what a fantastic guy he is, and there's no doubt about it that this young man will go down as one of the all-time greats. You know, I'm pretty good friends with Raymond Priester from growing up back in the same area in the lower state part of South Carolina, not quite in Allendale, but in and around, and then going to Clemson about the same time, and you know, Raymond Priester still holds all the Clemson football records as far as rushing goes, as far as yardage. And, you know, Raymond Priester's been on the program a few years ago, and he's a great guy. And C.J. Spiller, you know, if you started to get the carries that a guy like Raymond Priester was getting, if you played during the time that Raymond Priester was playing. Now, I don't know if C.J.'s body could have held up to the bruising that a guy like Raymond Priester had, but you know, anytime we've had those guys on the show, it doesn't matter who they are, they're all class acts, and that's what really impresses me the most. But obviously CJ Spiller, right now I don't think there's a question in anybody's mind, the most electric player to ever play at Clemson. And as we were talking before about the kick return game and how often, you know, that's one thing this offense this past season has really missed. And even going back 2 seasons, the kick return game, the punt return game, when you had a C.J. Spiller, when you had a Jacoby Ford, the difference that made in your ball club. And these past few seasons, it almost seems like because we haven't been maybe as sure-handed, we've had to put a guy like Adam Humphries back there, maybe a kid who's not as much of a threat to make the big run, to make the big play, but more to secure the ball, even if it's a fair catch. We've seemed to be pacified or satisfied by that fact. Just being able to get the ball and knowing that our offense could move the ball up and down the field. But could you imagine if we had the ability right now to unleash a guy like Sammy Watkins in the way we were able to with the Jacoby Fords or with the C.J. Spillers? The kickoffs being moved up, that's obviously affected that part of our game as well. My gracious, you think this offense is electric now. Can you imagine if you had that in your game? Every time you turned the game on with C.J. Spiller back there returning kicks, it was a threat. He was a threat to take it all the way. And how about CJ? How about him recognizing the fact that all those kick returns, everything, his name's in that book, but those 10 other guys who are out there getting the job done, those 10 other guys who paved the way for him. I mean, that's a stand-up kid, and that's a guy you want on your team, and that's why whether it was with the Buffalo Bills, whether it was with the Seattle Seahawks, it doesn't matter who he was playing with, C.J. Spiller was going to be successful in the NFL because he's got that motor. And I like the fact when you look at these running backs, obviously C.J.'s never going to say, okay, my career is only going to be 3 more seasons or whatever, but, you know, he's talking about 9 and 10 more years. The dedication that takes to keeping his body right. He mentioned the toe injury his senior season. We all knew what he was going through. There's no telling. There's really no telling how many times he laid up there in the training room, maybe having to get a shot in that toe just to numb it enough to go out and play on Saturdays. And like he said, really only getting to walk through on Thursdays, not getting that full contact practice. I can only imagine what it takes for you as a 19, 20, 21-year-old individual, realizing your future goal is to play, obviously, at the next level, and knowing that maybe every time you go out there, you could be putting that on the line. I mean, it's a topic for discussion right now in the media because of the mentions of a guy like a Jadeveon Clowney and what will he do? Would he sit out? Will he get an insurance policy? And I don't think anybody in their right minds would say that Jadeveon Clowney would actually sit out his junior season nonetheless. But the people who say the things like, well, he's turning his back on his team if he were to leave early, to me that's not the case at all. There's no difference for me in leaving after a sophomore year and leaving after your junior year. I don't feel like you're turning your back on anybody if it's protecting your better interest. But for C.J. Spiller to return for his senior season, as we heard in that announcement, the pop of the crowd, the people there, mostly his teammates, as loud, if not louder, than the folks down there at Lake Butler, Florida, at Union County High School when C.J. announced that he was going to become a Clemson Tiger. And I believe it was Dabo Sweeney who said that he actually grabbed the hat off of Kevin Alexander's head. You couldn't really see it in the video. You'll remember Kevin played down at Union County as well and also was a teammate of CJ's at Clemson. Craig in the chat room says, I thought he said Jadeveon Clowney can sit out. That would be just as good, I think, for most people at this point. But C.J. Spiller, once again here on the program, was just absolutely wonderful. And I've got to say that, you know, we're going to continue to try and line up great interviews for you here on the program. I know it's kind of the downtime for a lot of people. We've got baseball season kicking off this weekend against William and Mary. Obviously, Clemson traveling over to Georgia Tech for a tough road game because every road game is tough right now for Brad Brownell and this basketball team. 7 o'clock tomorrow, that's Thursday. Of course, we will be putting out the podcast edition, the YouTube version of the show. Every way you can take part with us is below us if you're watching it. If not, hashtag TNTalk, all one word, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can tweet questions to people. You can tweet us questions or your thoughts. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. We bring you Clemson news, notes, information, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Phone lines are always open. I apologize to the caller. I had CJ on the main line. I should have put him on the secondary line so that you could have called in. But as you know, if you've listened to the show here recently, we're not running our 10-second delay. And we had some Gamecock fans during Clemson Tom's interview come in and bust up the show a little bit, and that puts a little more effort on me because one thing I don't do is I'm not going to put out any of that nonsense and filth. So I have to delete the Spreecast version, which I don't want to do. I have to edit the YouTube version and then the podcast edition. So because of that fact, I really was a little nervous about taking that call anyway because I didn't want to lose what we've got right here already with C.J. Spiller in the can for everybody else to enjoy down the road, because your chat room comments do come up. One thing C.J. Spiller said back in an interview was that he could outrun everybody since Little League. Now, I was a fast kid back in the day. I could actually jump, and most of you wouldn't believe this if you saw me. I could actually dunk a basketball when I was a junior in high school. I didn't get a whole lot of playing time for head coach Chip Atkins, but he did quantify that with, but you can get up. I wonder now if C.J. Spiller, when he breaks away from somebody in the NFL, if he gets to the end zone and he realizes he just outran some of the fastest people on the planet, you wonder if he just kind of scratches his head and says, wow, I'm still doing it. Yeah, I'm 25 years old. I'm 25 years old, and I'm still outrunning everybody on the field. Because, look, as much credit as he gives the other 10 guys when he was playing at Clemson, as much credit as he'll give his offensive linemen, probably some isotoners, maybe take them out for some good meals from time to time. There's one thing about C.J. Spiller that you notice on a number of plays. That skip step he has to make a cut, to bounce cut if you want to call it, is still one of the most dangerous moves in the NFL. It was one of the most dangerous moves when he was playing at Clemson. He still utilizes it to this day. A hesitation and bounce in the hole to the outside that's unbelievable. He makes plays at times himself still. And hopefully a revamped offense will really allow him to extend his game a little bit. You know, when you look at his overall numbers this past season, 43 receptions for 459 yards as well and 2 touchdowns. I think that's a place that he's underutilized right now. And obviously when you look at him down the road for Buffalo, I know he's got those cold – that would be the one thing. If I'm C.J. Spiller, I'm from Florida, I'm playing in Buffalo, I'm bundled up like nobody's business. You can't – I mean, you when I think about Buffalo, I picture the old overcoats that these guys wore back during the O.J. Simpson days. You know, this huge, just a trench coat look. That can't be exciting when you're a rookie, even though it's probably fun to know you're about to get paid a lot of money to play football. It can't be fun to look at maybe some pictures in the locker room at Buffalo and go, oh, what am I thinking? Gonna freeze my tail off here. But CJ, being from Florida, he's gotten it done. He's adjusted well. And every once in a while when you tune in, you see him playing in that snow. You see him playing in that weather. Craig in the chat room says, the goal was only 8 feet high back then, right? Come on, Craig. Give my man a little credit. Give me some credit. I was a Fike legend, and that's true, and you'll find out about that Sunday night. Terrell McIntyre will join us on the Clemson Hotline. Stay with us, though. Final segment of the show coming up right after these messages.
In my head, if I pointed it just...
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that. Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888 888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about services offered by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC, visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate or reach them by phone 864-517-3620 or 864-517-3621.
This is Clemson Tom, and you're listening to Clemson Sports Talk. So sit down and have you a cold one and listen to a true American.
I like driving down Clemson Boulevard.
Welcome back. Final segment of TigerNet Talk here. 9 o'clock Wednesday nights, we kick it off live on the front page of TigerNet.com. They've got a fantastic little box over there, and even, I just checked it out, put under there special guest C.J. Spiller. So come on in. The water's fine. The guys and girls in the chat room, the ladies and the gentlemen in the chat room will take care of you. They're a kind bunch. Just as long as you're not a Gamecock, they'll be real nice to you. And you can also watch everything archived. We pull the audio out. We had Chancey Stuckey on the program last week. We just pulled that interview out and put it up on our website there in the archived interviews. Go back and check it out. Like I always like to say, we bookend the show with quality stuff, and this week we kicked it off with C.J. Spiller. But if you want to just catch that interview a little bit later in the week, go ahead and do it. We encourage you to do so. Go by ClemsonSportsTalk.com. And I'll tell you what, Clemson cannot get out of the minds of a lot of the prognosticators and experts out there. CBS and Mark May both put out their way too early preseason predictions on the top 10 or top 5, at least for Mark May. He has Alabama 1, Florida 2, Stanford 3, Texas A&M at 4, and Clemson number 5. And then you go over to CBS. I believe it was Bruce Feldman who put this one out. He's got Alabama 1, Texas A&M 2, Stanford 3, Ohio State 4, and Clemson 5. So as big as that announcement was for C.J. Spiller returning, it seems like the pundits out there, based on what they've seen from Clemson in recent years, are considering the return of Taj Boyd to be as important, if not more important. And you look at the pieces around Taj Boyd already. If Sammy Watkins can bounce back from the sophomore slump that he had, I think that was probably the biggest fear coming into the season after that fantastic freshman year. You said, will he have a sophomore slump? The off-the-field issues. But Sammy apparently having things together right now and keeping it that way off the field for Clemson Tiger Nation, that's a good thing as he comes into that junior season, what will most likely be his final season at Clemson. Well, finally, we're going to get you out of here. The Clemson Tigers head over to Georgia Tech, and I'll tell you what, this is a must-win game at this point for this Clemson Tiger basketball team. I know that so many of you just a few weeks ago, much like myself, felt like as Clemson went on the road to Boston College after defeating Georgia Tech at home, that the opportunity existed for this team to build a little momentum down the stretch and maybe find a way to finish above 500. Well, after 3 straight losses, you found yourself shaking your head. In a couple of those losses, I'm going to go ahead and say the Boston College game was an inexcusable loss on the road. There's no reason to go up there and lose that game. That's a team that you should be able to out-talent. That's a team that you should be able to out-hustle. That's a team that flat out we're better than that beat us. Virginia, look, I don't know if that had to do with the fact that we were flat or what, but we were flattened. And even though that's a game I think Clemson really has better talent, obviously going on the road there to John Paul Jones Arena, Clemson couldn't cut the mustard. Hammer time, the worst loss I've seen in years for Clemson Tiger basketball. NC State game, you fight, but you know what? Youth, some inexperience, missing some opportunities late in that game to put them on ice. Milton Jennings botched free throw late. We've seen that. That's been an Achilles heel for Clemson for many years. How many missed free throws? I'd like for somebody, if you've got more time than me, I'd love to see somebody go back through the annals of Clemson Tiger basketball and let Clemson shoot 80% from the free throw line in every game. 75. Go to 75%. And then calculate whether Clemson would have won the game based on the number of times they went to the free throw line. I'd be interested to know how many games. I would love to know how many games that would swing. Probably no North Carolina games. Probably none, because we never get to the line against North Carolina. I think that's pretty much a written rule in the ACC handbook that they give out to these officials. When Clemson, it's probably like in Section 2, Paragraph B. When Clemson is playing North Carolina, yes, here it is, please make sure that North Carolina commits no fouls. I've just located the problem to all these years. Corey in the chat room wants to know how soon, can C.J. Spiller be added to the Ring of Honor? Corey, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the time frame on it, if there even is a time frame on that. At this point, with his number 28 being retired, yeah, that's a tremendous honor when you consider the number of guys who've had their numbers retired at Clemson. And I really, when I sat down to think about this interview with C.J. Spiller and what I wanted to ask him, I knew I was going to ask about the education and being the first person from his family to get a full 4-year degree. I knew I was going to ask him about having his number 28 retired and kind of comparing those two things, because I knew how much that education meant to him. And I think if you threw those two questions out separately, he's going to give you a very similar response to how much it means to him. But to have him say, that education was the big deal. I thought about the Ring of Honor, but I didn't want to put him in that situation, to be honest with you, because as humble as he is, and by the words that you heard from him, his answer is going to be as long as Clemson fans remember me. Those things, those accolades, don't affect him. They just mean a lot to him. He's definitely deserving. I think at this point you'll have people that'll argue that he's not, but I do think that he is deserving of that. And Corey also says, how about Deshaun Watson being ranked so high as the 2014 recruit? That's going to be a long trail, a whole year to go. Deshaun Watson, I know Rivals bumped him up to a 5-star recruit, the number 1 quarterback in his class. We talked about him, I believe that was Sunday night on Clemson Hotline, Sunday night at 9 o'clock right here on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. We talked about that. He's a kid who has a lot of tools, and you look at his career and what he's done in the state of Georgia, he's been unbelievable. And by all accounts, one of, if not the best player to come out of Georgia in a long time at the offensive position, especially the quarterback spot. I mean, he's just been tremendous. He still has some mechanical things that he's got to get ironed out from what I see. Like I mentioned before, he's a guy who can take chances right now. He throws off his back leg way more than you would want your quarterback at the collegiate level to do. But that's why you have guys like Chad Morris coaching them up, getting on them. And that's one thing, if you go back, if you watch some of the tapes of the spring drills and the preseason practices, you hear Morris, in Taj Boyd's ear about his footwork. Everything's about his footwork. And for Taj last season, or I should say a year ago, when he packed on some pounds, the footwork got a little bit sketchy. He began throwing more off his back leg. He wasn't getting into his throws. And that was something they addressed this year. He maintained the weight. He kept his footwork nice. As good as Peyton Manning is, I'll tell you this, and some of you might crush me for this. As good as Peyton Manning is, I cannot stand his footwork in the pocket. He makes me so nervous with his footwork in the pocket. It's a different style. It's a little more choppy than most. I think part of that is because Peyton Manning, unlike a lot of quarterbacks, lacks that ability to get out of the pocket. He lacks that ability to really be a threat with his feet. So what does he do? He makes up for it by being a little bit quicker, a little bit more active, moving around, keeping the defense off balance. It's great. It does a great job. But if my quarterback were doing that, if Taj Boyd looked like Peyton Manning under center, as effective as maybe he is throwing the ball, I'm a nervous wreck. I would be a complete nervous wreck. And I'm guaranteeing you, if there's an Indianapolis Colts fan listening to the show right now, they're saying Swanee, but he's great. But you're right. He makes me a nervous wreck. I am absolutely a nervous wreck when I see him. But Clemson goes over to Georgia Tech, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. I know you'll want to check that out. And, of course, Sunday, the Clemson Tigers take on Miami. That's a 6 p.m. game. We'll follow up and review both of those games on Clemson Hotline. And, again, on Clemson Hotline coming up in just a couple of days, we're going to have Terrell McIntyre talking with us. We'll talk with him about this Clemson Tiger team, his playing days coming in back in 1995 with that seven-man freshman class. I'm going to ask him a little bit about where some of those guys are today, if he still stays in touch with them. That group, I think you could argue, ended up being the best all-around recruiting class Clemson basketball ever had. I know there was some attrition, but that core, Tom Wyman, Harold Jameson, Tony Christie, Andres Jakunas, Terrell McIntyre, and even Greg Buckner. I know he wasn't in that class, but that group, man, I tell you what, those guys were fun to watch. And finally, before I get you out of here, also next week right here, I do want to mention Will Proctor will join us. Will Proctor, of course, followed up Charlie Whitehurst as quarterback at Clemson, was the Clemson quarterback for many of those games, handed the ball off to guys like C.J. Spiller, James Davis. We're working on getting him on the show. We're going to continue to bring it. And as Jeff mentions in the chat room, baseball's finally here this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, barring any weather events. Clemson and William Mary getting it on to open up the baseball season for Coach Jack Leggett and one of the more youthful Clemson teams in a long, long time. We got to get out of here. I appreciate you all being here. 1 hour of TigerNet Talk in the can. I'm your host, Lawton Swann, and thank you so much for spending an hour of your evening with us here. 9 o'clock Wednesday night for TigerNet Talk. Sunday nights at 9 right here for Clemson Hotline. Follow us on Twitter and give us a call anytime, 803-450-0086. Those phone lines are always open, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thanks again to C.J. Spiller, our guest, and to Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty for presenting the show here, TigerNet Talk. Until next time, as always, y'all take care now, and go Tigers!